I am 59 years old, and last winter, my husband taught me the most terrible lesson a wife can learn without becoming a widow. Sometimes love means letting the person you love believe you're gone, just long enough to bring them safely back. It started with the sound the small kiln makes when it wants attention, not the sleepy hum that means the temperature is holding. Not the satisfied click that tells you the annealing cycle has slipped into place. This was a wrong sound. Thin, anxious, a mosquito whine under the skin of the room. I was still in the black dress from the memorial, church dust on the hem, when the noise threaded through the studio. My phone buzzed. Don't drink anything they hand you. Check the small kiln. I'm not dead. R. The words threw the floor out from under me. 3 days earlier, the police had put a hand on my arm in the kitchen and told me Raphael, my husband, my partner, in heat and flour and stubbornness, had collapsed near the bench. Cardiac arrest, gone before he fell. But now, I'm not dead. I opened the kiln door. Heat breathed on me like a sick animal. On the shelf, a white porcelain dish I'd never seen sat like an offering. Something clear had pooled there and hardened to glass. I leaned in, sweet and sharp. Antifreeze. I stepped back so fast my shoulders struck the workbench. I didn't answer the message. I simply stood in the heat and the silence and the long shadow of a thought I had been pushing away since the night the children, our children, showed up with forms and plans and soft voices full of iron. Ethan, we should sell, Mom. It's not safe. The inspector said there might have been a gas leak. Mara, you shouldn't be alone. We can arrange a place, a nice one, with activities. They spoke like good children, the kind who helped their fragile mother across the street. They spoke like people who had practiced together. I wanted to trust them so completely, my bones hurt with it. I texted back with hands that felt borrowed. Where are you? No answer. Only the kiln's anxious mosquito. Then silence. I locked the studio and walked home along the river. The water wore a film of ice that cracked and stitched itself with every step I took. In the kitchen, the old cat wove around my ankles, as if every question had only one answer: food. I stood at the sink with my hands braced on the counter and told the faucet to speak. It didn't. I slept in the chair where Raphael liked to pretend he would never nap. An hour, maybe, two. When I woke, the house had the feeling homes get when they've decided to hold their breath. I made coffee. I didn't drink. I scrubbed an already clean mug. I thought about the memorial, about the casket I'd touched with fingers that believed, about the gull that sat on the church roof like punctuation. I thought about the message. I thought about the antifreeze solidifying in a dish no one had purchased. At 9, Mara knocked. Her hair was smooth. Her eyes were not red. The coat she wore was the same cream one from the memorial, its collar a ship's prow. Come with me to the bank, she said. There's paperwork. Ethan's meeting us there. We'll make it easy. Paperwork for what? I asked, though I knew. Insurance, she said. It'll help. You won't have to worry. We'll handle the studio. We drove in silence. She took the long way through town, past the bakery, whose bread we never admitted was better than ours, on Thursdays. Past the hardware store where Raphael flirted shamelessly with the tape measures. The river kept pace, a dull strip of pewter between red brick and winter trees. Ethan waited at the banker's desk, already seated like a man who wants to look like he belongs. He rose. He kissed my cheek. He squeezed my hand. He placed a blue folder on the desk and slid it toward me with a pianist's fingers. It's straightforward, he said. Sign here and here. The money helps with the house and with everything. I opened the folder. The words did what words will do when they are honest. Beneficiaries: Ethan Moreno and Mara Moreno, not me. I don't understand, I said, and my voice never sounded more educated. Why isn't my name on this? An error, Ethan said immediately, with the smoothness of a man who has rehearsed. Clerical. We'll correct it later. Later? I repeated. Nora, the banker ventured, kind in the way of people who do not want to be in the story. These instruments often list adult children. Do they? I said. I closed the folder. Mara reached for the pen with a nurse's sure hand. Please, Mom. We're exhausted. Let's just finish. I set the pen down. I took my phone out and laid it on the desk. The screen was dark. The microphone was not. Before I sign, I said, tell me about the small kiln. They blinked at me. Siblings in a photograph. What about it? Ethan asked. It was on last night. I kept my voice gentle. There was antifreeze cooked into glass. Next to it, a letter from your father. He wrote that he was afraid I let that hang between us. It made a new sound in the room, a distant glass wind chime. Mara's mouth opened. Her eyes flickered sideways, to the banker, to Ethan, to the pen again. Ethan's nostrils flared in the small way they always had before he lied as a boy. He set his palms flat. You are grieving, he said carefully. You're connecting dots that aren't there. We need to be practical. Dad didn't want... He stopped because a uniformed man knocked on the glass wall of the office and motioned me outside. It was Sergeant Vale, the only policeman I trust to tell me the weather without checking his phone. Mrs. Moreno, he said softly, may we talk a minute? We stepped into the hall. The banker pretended to shuffle papers loudly. Ethan pretended not to watch. Mara pretended to look at the beige painting. I showed the sergeant the message. I told him about the kiln. I did not say the words I had not let myself form. My husband is alive, somewhere, and he wants me to be careful with the two people I made with my body. He tucked his head. I'll get a warrant for the studio, he said. And if Mr. Moreno contacts you again, keep him writing. Texts are friends. Are my children suspects? They are people we would like to hear from, he said. It was the gentlest truth he could offer. I didn't sign anything. I went home. I waited. Waiting is a skill I used to think belonged to glass. Heat, cool, wait. Do not touch the thing before it's ready. But it turns out it belongs to mothers too. The kind who sit on the edge of a bed while the child in it breathes the hot, knotted breath of fever. The kind who know the difference between a cry for water and a cry for mercy. At midnight, the phone buzzed again. Don't fight them alone. Look in the desk, bottom drawer, false back. I laughed then, a sound like a bark, ugly and grateful. 10 years earlier, Raphael had spent a weekend making a hidden panel in the studio office, because every good story has one. I'd called him dramatic. He'd called himself romantic. We'd hidden nothing there but movie tickets and a chocolate bar we forgot until summer. I put my boots on over my pajama pants and drove to the studio with the headlights off the last block. The river wore the moon like a bruise. Inside, the office smelled like dust and the crayon drawings of children who used to nap on our coats while we worked. I pulled the bottom drawer, felt along the back, found the nail head only a husband would use for a handle, pressed and popped the panel free. An envelope labeled in Raphael's blocky printing for Nora. If I'm late, inside, a notebook, a voice recorder, a thumb drive. I pressed play. Static, then his voice. Alive the way air is alive when the kiln door opens. If you're hearing this, Narita, I am either late or clever. I hope clever. I'll be brief because I hate talking to plastic. Something is wrong with the children. They are tight with money that is not theirs, worried about loans I didn't know existed. Mara has a friend in the pharmacy who is too helpful. Ethan has a man in his ear who likes interest more than mercy. I heard them whisper in the studio about a plan that sounds like a story you tell when you think no one is listening. I sat on the floor. The linoleum was cold through the pajama pants. The voice kept going, steadier than mine had been for days. So, I did the ridiculous thing. I decided to die. Just for a while. Vale knows. Don't be mad at him. I made him swear. And he owes me for the time I fixed his radio. Rosa knows, because Rosa knows everything. We arranged a swap. The body you touched belonged to a man with no name who died on the road. His niece wanted him buried with words. We gave him that. I went where men go when they need to be small. The old boathouse behind Ibai's yard. There's a cot that hates my back. I covered my mouth with my hand. He had faked it, and not to trick me, to save me. I waited to text you because I needed to see what the children would do when they believed the kitchen was empty. They have been kind to your face and cruel behind it. They brought forms. They lied about an inspector. They will ask you to sign. Don't. Don't drink what they hand you. Keep the kiln dish. Mara cooked something she meant you to swallow. It hardens pretty when heated. Remember how ugly pretty can be. The thumb drive held videos. My grown children slipping into the studio at night, Mara's pharmacy bag, Ethan's small bottle tipping into tea. PDFs, a predatory loan, a key person policy, with their names where mine should be. I texted the number that was my husband. Come home, please. I will when it's safe, he wrote. Soon. I love you. Don't be brave alone. Being brave alone is the only kind I know. Still, I called Rosa. She arrived with her mustard hat and a thermos the size of my cat. She heard everything. She looked at the videos and said, "Ah," like a woman spotting a stain you can lift. She called her cousin at the district office. She called Vale again and told him which judge keeps his pen by the phone. By morning, there were papers with seals and officers who said "ma'am" in the lobby. I thought about calling Ethan and Mara to warn them, but then I remembered the cup, the antifreeze cooling into a clear, fatal coin, and I let the law do the part of love that is sharp. They interviewed the children at the station. Mara cried the polite tears of a woman who believes tears are a tool. Ethan sat with his hands pressed between his knees, like a schoolboy who cannot keep from kicking the desk. They denied. They hedged. Then Vale played a clip from the recorder, Ethan's voice saying, "We can stage it. He's old. No one will question." The denial collapsed like sugar in water. But there was no charge for murder, because there had been no murder. There were other words instead: attempted poisoning, fraud, conspiracy to defraud an insurer. Words that ring like nails, words that feel like coins, words that keep people from doing the next bad thing. I did not go to the station. I went to the boathouse. The river ran black beneath unfinished ice. The boathouse door stuck like a lie. I pried it. Inside, the air smelled of oil and old raincoats, a cot, a lantern, a pile of blankets that knew our house. A man I had loved since we were children stared at me with eyes that couldn't decide whether to laugh or bow. "You let me bury you," I said. And then I fell into the space between us where his arms belonged. We were not dramatic. We were tired. We cried a little, like people watering hard ground. He told me about the niece, a woman with a quiet voice who had no money and no priest, and how he had looked at the anonymous man on the tray and said, "Let me do this for you, friend." He told me how Rosa had smuggled him soup that tasted like battery acid because she does not cook. He told me how he had lain awake and remembered the feel of my palm on the casket, and how that nearly sent him running up Main Street in his socks. "You shouldn't have done it," I said, because someone had to say it. "It could have killed me differently." "I know," he said. "I gambled that you are cleverer than grief." He lifted my chin with a finger. "I was right," Ethan pled out. Mara cooperated. The world did what worlds do. It looked, it judged, it moved on. The bank sent apology letters and the kind of muffins people buy when they are afraid of the people they have wronged. The insurance company denied its story, went hunting elsewhere. Vale stopped by with a foil pan of lasagna that a woman at church had made for us, and he avoided our eyes except when he didn't. We did not sell the studio. We cleaned it. We moved the small kiln beside the window and set a sprig of rosemary on top of it because we needed a reminder that smelling can be wiser than looking. We hired an apprentice who laughs too loud and makes bubbles that pop like applause. We made lamps that look like moons and bowls that look like the inside of a grapefruit, and a ridiculous fish for the boy who'd skated circles around the memorial because grief needs nonsense, too. Mara comes on Thursdays. She keeps her eyes on the work and brings me tea from the shop, where we always said the pastry was too sweet and always ate it anyway. She doesn't say I'm sorry. She doesn't have to. Her hands say it every time she washes the tongs and sets them on the towel with the carefulness of a woman handling a newborn. I let her be the person she is becoming. Forgiveness is a door with a latch on the inside. I open it as far as I can most days. Ethan writes once a month from the diversion program, where they send people who made a fork in the road and took the wrong tine. His handwriting is still the handwriting of a boy who wanted to be faster than the paper. He says things like, "I don't know why I was that person, and I keep thinking about the day at the river when you taught me to skip stones." He never asks for money. I write back sometimes. I tell him about the weather. Like weather is what a mother should always be able to report without lying. We held a real service for the nameless man. The niece came. We said his name, Luis, and the pastor didn't read the wrong psalm. We made him a grave lantern that turned the snow gold, and I placed it on his plot with both hands, because you never know when you will need a stranger to help you tell your story. On the first night, Raphael slept in our own bed again. He woke with a start at 2 a.m., as if the river had whispered something rude. I sat up too, because long marriages make a mirror out of sleep. "What?" I said into the dark. "I kept thinking," he said, "about how the glass sings when we get the heat right. Not before, not after. Exactly then. The kiln lied," I said. "But the glass didn't." He took my hand under the covers. "It never does." Sometimes a customer will ask me why the lamps look different now. Warmer, as if light were a thing that could learn. I tell them the truth in a way they can carry out like a purchase. We learn to listen harder to machines, to messages without names, to the way a child says mom when what they mean is mercy, to the way a river keeps going under ice. If you're here for a lesson, I have only the simple ones. Keep water you poured yourself. Keep a sprig of rosemary near the heat. When the message comes that sounds like madness, check the small kiln anyway. And if someone you love is late, hope for clever. I would like to tell you we are safe now. We are not. The world remains the world. Caskets and coats and forms with the wrong names on them. But there is also this. Every morning, when I open the studio door, the bell makes the sound it has made for 20 years, and it means welcome in a language no one had to teach it. The cat curls on the bench. The apprentice burns her fingers and laughs and swears and learns. Mara wipes the windows with vinegar. I turn the kiln on and listen. At exactly the right heat, the glass begins to hum, a small, steady note like a throat clearing before a song. And when it sings, I do what Raphael taught me the first week we were poor and made a vase that sold for enough to buy 2 bags of flour. I sing back. Did you like the story? Tell me in the comments and let me know where you're listening from. If you enjoyed it, you can support the channel with a super thanks. It really helps me keep making more stories for you. You can see 2 new life stories on your screen right now. I think you'll love them. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next story.